Mhm.
the one fighter I will make my number one pick of the night from here on out. Anytime she fights, yes, she is Erin Blanchfield. She's gonna go out there. Molly's got a huge hype behind her right now, and I know the betting line doesn't show Molly as the hype train. The odds makers are really putting this fight accurate. I think Erin should be that big of a favorite. Erin is probably the most complete female fighter outside of the top two.
Yeah.
I think she goes out there, displays super good grappling, and just works Molly either into submission or she just drowns her for 2 rounds. Erin is a very, very good female fighter. She's so technical. Doesn't even look like a lot of her stuff looks effortless out there. A lot of her transitions on the ground, striking still developing, but it's solid. But she's just levels above these girls in the wrestling and ground game, and she's able to mix in her strikes really good to get there. I don't think the fight's even going to be close. So that's my surefire. I'd bet the house on it pick.
Yeah, Meatball has a chance as long as she keeps it on her feet and makes it a striking fight. The problem is that's not likely to happen, but Meatball's tough. She's game. I see the fight going the same way, but I think Molly puts up we'll call it an admirable fight until it hits the ground, in which case I don't think it's not going to be Molly's fight on the ground, but on the feet, she has a chance to land a couple shots and if she can keep it on the feet and do some damage, you could look at a huge upset. But I don't think that's going to happen. I agree with you. That's a fight. It's the largest odds on the card. So Molly, biggest underdog on the card. And as a gambler, I'd probably just say I'm going to stay away from this one. I'm not going to put $1,000 to win 100. And I don't know what the official odds are, but usually it's somewhere around like 8-1 or something like that for the top upset. So yeah, I agree. What else you got? What else do you like? I like to start with a female fighting right away. That's good because we actually have another big female fight on the card, and it's weird because you have a champion who's had five title fights, but then fought Rose. And the Rose fight was so fucking awful. I mean, I was excited for that fight. Rose had just come in off of, very exciting fight with Zhang Wei, and came in and just put on the most boring fight show ever that I've ever seen in UFC. It was embarrassing. So since that, Esparza has really dropped off as far as being a fan favorite. And she's the second biggest dog, in spite of being the champ, to another champion in Zhang Wei, who looks like the Chinese have been pumping in some sort of hormone therapy and steroids into that girl, because she does not look like your typical female fighter. She is jacked. She's like remember Bloodsport? Remember the Asian in Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme? Did you ever see?
Yep.
She looks a little bit like that guy, but in a female fighter form. She's a bad motherfucker, and the champ's not really getting any respect in this fight at all. Second largest underdog, and I understand why. Zhang Wei's no bullshit. That's a big, strong female fighter. Female fighter, but she's strong as hell. What do you think? What do you think of that one? Any chance Esparza pulls her shit together and pulls off an upset?
I went on last when I talked about I can see Charles outmaneuvering Islam on the ground because of the Moicano fight where Islam, he put Islam in a little bit of sticky situations at some point, but that showed me that I was totally wrong. Each fight is subjective.
Yeah.
And I look back at when Wei Li fought Rose and how Rose took her down and sealed the deal in the later rounds, how easily it happened. Even though she was working with Henry Cejudo, you could work with the best in the world, but can you apply it?
Yeah.
And Henry is the best in the world, I think, for his wrestling. You watch what the guy teaches. He's a very, very good teacher, very good at explaining stuff. And I'm not saying Wei Li's not a good wrestler. I mean, she's freaky. She's a freaky athlete, freakish athlete. I do. Esparza's got one path to victory. It's grinding Weili out for 5 rounds, taking her down, pinning her down for 5 rounds straight. And usually I like that plan. I was scared when Chael Sonnen fought Anderson Silva because everyone knew this is Chael's path to victory. But and Anderson had showed kinks in the past of being stuck on his back and in trouble.
Mhm.
But I don't see Carla being able to do this for 5 rounds to Weili. I really don't. I think Weili's able to use kind of the Johanna rubric that Johanna used to beat Carla many years ago, because Carla is good. Don't get me wrong, excellent wrestler, excellent grappler, but you get roughly the same fighter every time. I think Weili is going to just keep her at the end of her range, end of her punches, end of her strikes, and just make her pay. Anytime she enters that striking range to try to level change or get inside, Weili's going to make her pay. And usually I don't like when I was talking about Blanchfield, I didn't say, yeah, Aaron's going to go out there and knock her out. No, I think Aaron will wear on her and submit her. But Weili, this girl can knock girls out. Not a lot of girls can knock females out. Weili's one of them. I think Weili will put Carla away within 3.
I agree.
But then again, just like I said, devil's advocate as always, the other end. Maybe, like I said, you can work with the best in the world, but can you apply it? Weili, maybe she can't stop the takedowns. Maybe Carla's beating her to the inside every time, is able to step in range and hit that level change. Then we got a 5-round fight where Weili just gets grinded out, gets tired, and then can't stop anything later on. But overall, I don't see that playing out. I see Weili's just a juggernaut. I think she's going to come forward right off the bat, bring the action within the first 5 seconds, and get going with it.
Just steamroll. It looks like fighters at different weight classes when they step in the ring.
It does.
So we've got Frankie Edgar's last fight, 17-year career. The guy is, really got balls of steel. I mean, he at one point he was the shit. And recently he's fallen off. But if you look who he's fought with that fall off, you're talking about Cub Swanson, Max Holloway, Chang Sung Young, Pedro Munoz, Corey Sandhagen, and Chito Vera. Those are all elite fights. He's not. It's not like he's been fighting, tomato cans. Not that the UFC has a bunch of them, but there are levels at the UFC, and these guys he's been fighting are top level guys. As people have said, he's wearing down. Tonight is his last fight. At least that's what he says. And he's 41 now. I mean, he's 2-5 in his last 7. So he's still got some juice in the tank at 41. But what do you think of his fight tonight? What do you think? What do you think's in store? Can Frankie Edgar can he leave on top with a win over Gutierrez, or do you think he's completely outmatched?
I wouldn't say outmatched. I remember watching Frankie many years ago, and that the head movement was the biggest thing. It wasn't that he was the best boxer, just his head movement and feinting and the threat of the takedown made him so efficient of a striker.
Yeah.
And then he really started getting even more polished with his striking, and he kind of got away from his wrestling, where you would see him trading with guys for, like, the Gray Maynard fights. You'd see him trading with them for 5 rounds and knocking guys out sometimes. But I just think he's already over the hill. I wish he got a ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
But Chris doesn't fight often, I'm pretty sure. And I don't even know when I think he hasn't lost in like 3-4 years. I'm not quite sure, but
he hasn't lost since 2018 was his last loss. There was a disqualification in there in 2020, but yeah, he hasn't lost basically 4 years. He hasn't lost, almost 5 at this point. That's a pretty good streak going on.
Yeah, and Chris, he's starting to knock guys out. I'm pretty sure he was a decision fighter. He was getting decisions early on in his career.
Correct.
But now he's starting to knock guys out.
Yeah.
The chin's not there anymore for Frankie. It just sucks. I really wish I could watch Frankie go out there and have a good show against and he like when he was fighting Cheeto, he wasn't looking horrible. It was looking like it was gonna be a semi-competitive fight. And then he gets knocked out, and it's like, man, and then he got like the way he's getting stopped is just vicious. I mean, the Sandhagen knee, the Cheeto kick, it's like
These are like legendary knockouts and all on the same person. So how are you going to come back from that? I mean, his brain's still there. Will it shut off? The good
right. I think Chris is gonna go out there and headhunt. And I don't want to see him at the end of another highlight reel like that, but I think it's likely. I wish he had a different matchup, not a guy who's on a good streak right now.
I think it is a good matchup in the sense that Chris, even though he's starting to knock people out, he's not a knockout artist. So Frankie, I'm going to say this is my upset of the day. Frankie Edgar has been fighting some fighters I believe are at a level that are equal to or above Chris. And, he's won 2 of those and lost 5, but yeah, he's had some vicious knockouts. This is his final go ahead. I think he's going to enjoy it. I think sometimes when you're a professional fighter for 17 years, it's your last fight. You can sort of take a breath and enjoy what you've done with the sport, what the sport's done for you. And sometimes it takes the pressure off and you can just be loose and perform. And I think he's going to go out and have fun tonight. And I think he's going to pull out a victory, even though he's a big dog. I just call it the old man sentimental portion. I just like Edgar because everybody's shitting on him now. And I think his skills haven't eroded that much. He was in that fight against Cheeto and he was really, really well. And Cheeto is a bad motherfucker. He puts the pace on you too. And he just made one mistake. And sometimes that's all it takes. So if he fights the way he did against Cheeto, he wins this fight.
And everything you said is right on the money. Frankie's not losing to schmucks. He's losing to very good guys. He's losing to Corey, who's fought for the belt now 2 times. Lost to Cheeto, who Aljamain wants to fight. But Henry Cejudo's back in, so it's like, where are we gonna go with that? So
these are no bullshit fighters. I mean,
these are top 4.
Max Holloway, who puts that pace on you and throws more punches than pretty much anybody in a
right.
fight.
So he's not losing to nobodies. No. In a sense, it is going to be like a step up for Chris.
It is.
I do see it going either way. I am leaning more towards Chris just because, like, for me, like when Randy's last fight against Lyoto was happening, I wanted Randy to win. I thought Randy could win, but I think that was like the and then when Anderson fought Uriah Hall, it was like, yeah, these are like ideal matchups. These guys still, I want to hang on to the guys, watching the guys I grew up on.
Yeah. The sentimental, a little sentimental.
Yeah, and I'm just never gonna forget Frankie with that bouncing head movement, constant loop. When he beat BJ in Abu Dhabi, man, it sucks. I don't want him to lose, but I'm not gonna pick anymore after how I did on the Oliveira card. So I think I only missed Charles in one other fight, actually. Yeah, Charles and Brady I missed. I'm not gonna pick based on emotion anymore. I want Frankie to win, but I think Chris will win.
Completely fair. What other fights do you like on the card? What else is standing out to you that looks good? Anything, or do you want to jump to the Z Championship fights? The big Poirier Chandler. You want to talk Poirier Chandler?
Yeah, let's go to that one because I got a lot to say on that one actually.
So do you want me to dive real quick and think? I think
you give me your insight because I was actually, as I'm driving around at work, I'm just sitting there back and forth thinking like, well, this, well, that. It's like, I
think this one through. Poirier's the more polished fighter. Chandler is a fucking kamikaze fighter. He's so aggressive. He comes out in that first round like trying to kill people, and he's got explosive knockout power. He does get hit a lot. Chandler does open up when he's so aggressive, he opens up. I think Chandler's a better wrestler, but is he smart enough to get this fight to the ground and try to do that? I don't see that in his DNA. He's got that smash and kill caveman DNA.
Yep.
It's sort of a puncher's chance, but it's not a typical puncher's chance where you're talking about a guy who only has a chance to land a lucky shot. This one's going to end in knockout. If there's a bet for that, this one will not go the full distance. Very unlikely, unless for some reason Chandler decides to take it wrestling, which who knows if he has that discipline. Maybe if he gets popped once or twice. On paper, Poirier wins. I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going with a human wrecking ball. I'm going with Chandler out of pure chaos. If it gets out of the first round, I think Poirier wins, but I think Chandler with a first round knockout.
You're very right. Chandler has the tools to win this fight.
Yeah.
And man, just look at Dustin's last two losses, which were Charles and Khabib. I know this is from a friend of a friend, from a coach from their friend. Dustin's, and this isn't discrediting Dustin's jiu-jitsu at all.
Yeah.
Dustin is labeled a jiu-jitsu black belt so he can keep the fight standing. I'm not saying that guy's not in the gym 24/7 training all the time. Honestly, he'd probably tap me out. The guy's a pro. But that's more so there because granted it's Khabib, granted it's Charles. He just looked like a fish out of water with those guys. Granted, he almost choked out Khabib, but other than that one moment, he just got mauled. And Chandler's gotten away from. You look at Chandler early Bellator before the bench. Actually, I think he still was doing it when he fought Benson Henderson.
Yeah.
Chandler was always the take you down, out explode you, and beat you up guy. But he's just been getting addicted to the knockout. I see Chandler, Dustin's smart. And I'm going to tell you right now,
yes,
Chandler stands super wide. He stands super wide so he can pop in, pop out, explode real fast. I see Dustin taking a real methodical pace with the calf kick early. And when Justin started throwing that calf kick on Chandler, that's when Chandler started slowing down. And
yeah, he saw that. That's true. He'll do that.
Yeah, he's going to eat that front leg up.
And that's why
Chandler can't come out. It's hard. It's easy to say, but Chandler can't come out there with that super wide stance. I think if he's going to come to wrestle, he's going to have to be a little bit more squared, a little bit more, not squared, more narrow, and just still be ready to level change. He's super. Look what he fought Dan Hooker. If he mix it into wrestling early, even if you get Dustin, even if you can't hold Dustin down, just like when he dumped the Gaethje, get low, penetrate, and separate. Force Dustin to get a little tired, stop on a takedown.
Yeah.
And then use that level change like he used with Hooker and come up with that big left hand. Like you said, Michael Chandler is just chaos when he fights. That's what he's been lately. Every fight in the UFC he's been in, there hasn't been a second Michael Chandler's fought in the UFC where I haven't been standing up. When he fought Hooker, I was sitting down and then I was standing up. When he fought Oliveira, I was standing up right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And then when he fought Gaethje, the whole fight is just insane. This guy goes in there, throws caution to the wind, and is ready to fight. But he's saying he wants to show these Dagestans what American wrestling is.
Yeah.
And with him saying that, I think we're going to see old Michael Chandler. I think he's going to go out there, do the same thing he does, going to look to throw these wild strikes and get inside and go back to his wrestling. And I think Chandler wins this fight as well. I think Chandler, a lot of people are writing him off, thinking Poirier is he's going to sit in front of him and tag him up all fight. I think Chandler is going to just be the hyper-aggressive wrestler he used to be. And I would like to see it. That's what I've been telling myself all day. If not, Poirier is going to sit there, eat up that front leg, and slowly piece him up.
Yeah, that's where I agree 100%. If Chandler can get that damage in the first round and maybe score knockdown or obviously knock the fight, knock him out, the fight's over. If it goes to every second that fight goes on, it edges towards Poirier. Chandler really does have that early advantage in his pace and his anger, and then if it goes to round two, I see Chandler winning round one, then he's in better position. But round two, I could see Poirier really starting to, those front leg kicks and getting that pace and keeping that range and starting to pick them apart, because Chandler does get hit quite a bit and he takes some good shots. So I'm excited for that fight. I have Chandler in an upset. I think it's going to be a fucking barn burner. And Hooker's on the card too.
That's right. He's fighting Poulis.
Well, yeah, I don't know how to, but yeah. So that fight is. I like Hooker in that fight. That's one of my picks this week. I like Hooker to take that fight. I don't know how I don't know how you feel about it, but Dan's been fighting at high level for a long time, and he's a hell of a fighter. He's elite. And I don't see Puelles in that category. I think Hooker, goes and establishes his alpha dog in that fight and makes it a pretty easy fight.
I think you're right. I think Hooker gets back to it. Seems crazy. It seems like yesterday he had that war with Poirier.
Mm-hmm.
That was back in 2000. But since that fight, he really hasn't been the same. I think that he can catch his stride in this fight, because Poulis has one thing that I've noticed from him in his past fights, the guy's really good entering his single leg. He's a ground fighter. He's gonna look to take Hooker down.
Mm-hmm.
I think Hooker can use his range, front kicks, keep him at bay, and just pick him apart. I think this would be a little bounce back fight for Hooker, because he has had a couple rough outings. But if Hooker goes on his back, then I'm going to be worried. I do see Hooker winning the fight, though.
Yeah, it should be a fun. That'll be a fun one. Because Hooker's been losing in dramatic fashion pretty quickly. A lot of first ass whippings, and he's better than that. And I think he realizes if he loses this one, it might be pretty much the end of his UFC career. He might have some more, fights on his contract, but for all intents and purposes, he's not going to be a draw anymore, like he has.
He won't be I can't see him contending for a title ever again. I mean, I don't want to write him off. I think with the way lightweight's forming right now, I don't see him bursting into the top 5 with those guys. I really don't.
No. So let's talk about the big one. Israel Adesanya is fighting somebody who's beaten him twice at kickboxing. Alex Pereira, who's just a fucking ferocious monster. To Izzy, arguably one of the top 2 or 3 to ever do it at that weight class. And Alex, who's the only person who's really beaten Izzy and did it twice. The last one with a knockout in the second round. What do you think of that fight? What are your thoughts on
it? In the second fight that Izzy lost, excuse me, I really liked his approach, but I'm going to tell you why I hope I don't see it right now. Izzy fought very long guarding. He had his left straight out, and then he had the hand tucked to his face, because we know Alex is looking for that 3. He's throwing that 1-2, and then he's going to come around that big left hook from his hip. So that Izzy in the first fight, every time Alex threw the right hand over the top, Izzy just rolled that shoulder, and he had that frame out. So every time rolled the shoulder, slid right off the head. And this was stuck here. And the only reason Izzy got knocked down that fight, I don't know. I can't, I've seen the knockout 100 times, but he just was split second from getting that glove back to his face before he ate it. Mm-hmm. And this, a lot of people are getting mad about Izzy's performances lately. And I'll admit, He's a super defensive striker.
Yeah.
And guys don't want to engage with him for that.
Yeah, he's one of the best counterpunchers in the history of the sport. And
So
know that. So they don't come in against him and get wild. So they sit back and he sits back and just chips away. And it makes for a boring fight because he's not going to go make a mistake. But he's winning as a champion.
exactly.
Great guys, that's your job. So boring, fuck boring. Walk out with a W. A lot of Mayweather fights were boring. You know, he's still not going to ever be questioned as one of the greats. So this one, I don't know if he'll be able to. I don't think he's going to have that issue with this one. I don't think he's going to have a fighter that's going to be afraid of engaging and coming forward on him. Pereira is not that guy. He's going to come forward, and he's 26 pounds overweight. Did you see that? Since he made weight yesterday, Alex is 26 pounds heavier.
He's you know, and when he steps in the cage fight day, he's huge.
He's huge.
That guy is huge. I mean, and I think he's considerably bigger from when they fought for however long years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you're 100% right. And this is the problem that Cannonier had. I feel Cannonier just didn't want to engage. Same thing with Yoel. And to Yoel's thing, Yoel's somewhat a counter striker because he wants guys to come in and blow up. Costa didn't want to engage. Vettori tried to engage, but Vettori walked forward square and just got pieced up the whole fight.
Mm-hmm.
Alex is going to come forward.
Yeah, he is.
Alex is going to throw, and he's going to throw to kill. It's going to be, and the reason I said I really liked how Izzy was fighting in their first fight with that long extended tie fighting way, the long posting arms. I hope he doesn't fight like that this fight because those 4-ounce gloves are not 10-ounce gloves. They're not going to be able to cover up your face. If you eat a left hook, even if this hand's there, that's still going to hurt. That's still going to give you a little rattle.
Especially a guy like Alex. Yeah.
Yeah, especially that left hand from Alex.
Yeah.
I'm worried. I'm worried. I'm not questioning Izzy's. It's not a matter of me questioning Izzy's mentality because Izzy's over it. Izzy knows that this is MMA. I'm a bad fuck motherfucker, but I'm more so Alex's mentality of I've knocked this motherfucker out. I'm gonna go and hit him, and he's going to sleep. And I think that's what's gonna make Alex come forward and walk in him and throw some bombs. And I just don't know if Izzy's gonna be able to run away from not run away. I just don't. Izzy's gonna have to fight the perfect counter strike fight for 5 rounds.
Correct. Perfect.
They're both saying they might wrestle each other. I don't see it. Alex is huge. Alex is huge. I would say he's going to be he's easily going to be 210 tonight in that cage. Izzy will probably be 190. Izzy doesn't want to have Alex getting into grappling exchanges with a guy 20 pounds heavier.
Technically,
especially in the later rounds.
He has an advantage skill-wise, Izzy does, but you're talking about a guy 20 pounds weight. That skill advantage, can get a little tumultuous. Usually big eats small. Usually that's what happens. I think Izzy does feel confident on the ground against Alex, but that's a big, strong dude. I mean, usually Izzy has a size advantage over everybody at that weight. He's usually
it's not there this time.
Not there. This is a physical. This time he's got a size disadvantage against Alex, and it's the first time I've seen it. And Izzy was, to be completely fair, in both fights he lost, he was, handling Alex pretty well until he wasn't.
Yep.
And I expect to see something very similar here. I think Izzy's plan is to take Alex to deep water. Can you get there? Because Alex has a lot of questions. He's never made it in the 5 rounds in an MMA fight like this. Conditioning.
The Bruno Silva fight, which was 3 rounds, he was exhausted.
Exhausted. So if he doesn't finish Izzy quickly, it's just like the fight earlier with Chandler. If he doesn't, every minute of that fight, it tips Izzy. He's got the experience. He's a technically, I think, a better technical striker than Alex. He's a dangerous counterpuncher, but Alex is a more ferocious puncher. I'm going with the upset in this one. I think that Alex is going to come in a lot harder than Izzy's seen from anyone in a championship fight, and get Izzy early, get him out of there early. Don't want that to happen. But as a caveat to that prediction, because, Izzy does have the experience, if he can get out of round 2, Izzy's going to take that fight and win it.
Yep, I agree with that. I think we'll get a good idea of who's going to win the fight. And I know this is stupid to say, about 3 minutes in.
Yeah.
I think if Alex tries to take the conservation route of just line up the bomb, and if I only got to throw 2 punches at a time, I think that's going to be the misguided route, because that's going to be where. So Izzy likes to lean back when he evades. I can see if Alex is trying to throw one shot at a time, yes, that lean's going to be good. But if Alex is trying to poke with that jab, then lunges with his 2, and then steps on the 3, that's where we're going to have the issue. I agree with you. I don't want Izzy to lose. I like Izzy. I love him as a champion. As boring as people say he is, I think he does his job. He's doing what a fighter's supposed to do. I want Izzy to win, but if you had to make me pick my something dependent on it, I'm gonna go with Alex. I can see. I think Alex has the more favorable win condition of just landing your big shots, whereas Izzy needs to worry about counter striking, worry about the power, and stay alive in there for all the rounds. Whereas Alex just needs to go out there and get him out of there early.
Yeah, after watching what Alex did to Strickland, and Strickland's a guy who he's sparring constantly. He spars like every day hard, constantly. And he's a damn good striker. And he thought, all right, I got this guy. And then he was asleep. And
I mean, Sean ate one shot and went to bed. You don't see guys. Sean Strickland's never been knocked out. The guy's got 30 fights. He eats one shot. And that's, like I said, Pereira obviously is doing a good job hydrating, because I let's definitely say that there's a lot of water back in that body and a lot of water back in here. So if Izzy does tag him, that brain's not really going to rattle around too much on the skull.
Yeah.
Alex just hits too damn hard, and I think that's going to be a problem. Then again, I thought this is what was going to happen in Costa with Costa, where Izzy just walked in the center of the cage and just was hurting him. But Alex is a way better striker than Costa, and while Costa is a big dude, Alex is a big, long dude.
He's freakishly big and long for that division. It's 2 freakishly big and long people. Izzy's advantage he has had over everybody is gone. And now you're talking about a guy who's just he's basically got the KO power, maybe one of the strongest punchers we've seen in a while in that division at the UFC. He's up there. I mean, you don't see that type of ferocious power at that division very often, and he's got it. So is better fight smart. I would think that one of his best plans, if I were to be managing Izzy, I'd say stay outside with the leg checks, work that front leg, circle, and see if you can get him pinned to the side or down. If you can get a takedown to get through rounds 1 and 2 and just wear him out. Yes, he's heavier. Just even if it's boring, keep him on the ground as much as you possibly can. Make him tired and get him into round 3 and fight your fight. That's because rounds 1 and round 2 with that big, strong guy, I wouldn't feel great if I were with Izzy going, just go out there and stay at range. Yes, you're a great range fighter, but so is Alex. So it's going to be a fun fight to watch. I had one more
guy, like you said about the range. The thing about fighting at range too is we're not wearing 10-ounce gloves anymore. We're in these 4-ounce ones. That's not this hand isn't as big as that big cushion. So it's going to be another thing we're covering up.
So I have Alex in the upset there, but I want Izzy badly to win. I just love the guy as a champ and a person. I think he's great. So last thing I wanted to talk to you about, there's a lot of controversy we haven't talked about with the O'Malley fight, with the scoring in the O'Malley fight. And I just wanted to say, to MMA people, because UFC is very tough to score. There's a lot of confusion on how to score it. But for MMA fans, I'm come from the boxing side as well. to watch people say that that's the worst decision they've ever seen, I'm like, you sound stupid. Like you really sound fucking stupid, because it is not a bad decision. Rounds 1 and round 3 were as close as you could possibly get. You could have gone all 3 rounds for Peter, or you could go 2-1 Peter, or you could go 2-1 Sean. And all 3 of those are acceptable. It was not a robbery. And in round 2 was clearly Peter Yan won that round. Nobody disputes that. Rounds 1 and round 3, those are as tight as it gets. I think O'Malley outstruck with significant strikes, 84-58, including 40-15 in the 3rd round. So to all those people that are like, yeah, well, Peter took him down, but he didn't do any damage when you take it. So how much is a takedown worth if you're not actually, if the guy's popping right back up, what the fuck is that worth? It's not worth 25 significant strikes, So I actually had O'Malley winning 1 and 3 and Peter winning 2, but 1 and 3 were so razor thin. If he had taken him down and landed 2 extra strikes in either of those rounds, I might have gone with Peter. That's how tight they were for me. I mean, it was razor thin. So worst decision ever. You need to watch more sports. Go watch the Taylor fight in boxing, where he fought Catalina. What the hell's the guy's name? Taylor fought, and it was one of the most lopsided fights you'll ever see. And they gave it to Taylor to keep his belt. He literally lost just about every single round. I think he won 1 or 2 rounds, fight stats and in reality, and they gave it. That was a robbery. This was not a robbery. And there's a lot of MMA fans out there. This is the worst I've ever seen. Well, shut the fuck up. You don't know the sport then. That's my message that's my lovely message to embrace the MMA community.
I agreed. The takedowns that Peter was getting weren't enough to close the gap. And I mean, there's a difference from patterning someone and drilling them. And Sean was drilling Peter, quite frankly. Sean was stiffening him. Yeah. And every time he hit Peter, you could see that he was snapping his head back. So, like you said, I think the fight could have gone either way. I don't think it was if you didn't watch the fight and you looked at the fight statistics, you would think like, okay, maybe Peter won. But when you see what Peter got the takedowns. Sean either bounced up
immediately.
He bounced up on 2 or 3 of them. And then the one where he had him down for most of the round, he really didn't do anything. Yeah, it's like
and that's the round he won. That was round 2,
right?
Yeah, in rounds 1 and 3, those takedowns where it mattered, the close rounds, those takedowns, he really didn't do anything at all. O'Malley pretty much handled the takedowns, popped back up, jumped to the feet, separated, no real damage. Sometimes O'Malley was even chipping away more. And those punches don't mean much, but they score. You have to look at what the damage is. But hats off to O'Malley. I think that was the deepest water he'd been in, and Peter Yan for being two warriors in that fight. And Peter's had 2 tough fights in a row, 2 tough decisions in a row, both of which I agreed with, but both where other fight fans didn't. And I think he's probably out of the UFC now, going to go fight in Bellator or something else. I don't know.
But see, Peter's putting the blame on the UFC when it's the commissioning body. It's not like Dana's walking up. Those aren't UFC appointed judges. They're athletic commission that they're whoever the sanctioning body is for the UFC. That's who's appointing those judges. Like Sal D'Amato, Chris Lee do not work for the UFC. So that's another thing. If there was a true fix, like people are saying, look at the athletic commission then, because these guys judge at a bunch of other promotions like Bellator, PFL. These guys are judging there.
It's no fix. I mean, you and I saw that. It's such a close fight.
Right.
And the same with the other one, Jan's other fight. He was dominating the late rounds, but he lost the first 3 rounds. He was
clear and decisively.
Clearly and decisively. He won in 4 and 5, clearly and decisively. But it's a fight. That's not how it's scored. If you have a problem with it, change and I do think that UFC doesn't have to do the boxing system. It doesn't have to be a 10-9 round or 10-8 round, they could use a different system, a points-based system, just like DraftKings does, to score each round and see who wins the fight at the end, or score each round and maybe have a round that's a 10-point round to a 7.42 point round. You know what I mean?
Right, because there's things also like, yeah, you get a takedown, but there's been fights I've seen where a fighter will have 4 of 17 takedown defenses landed, and it's like, all right, yeah, they landed 4, but what about the other 13 times they got sprawled on? How much should that matter? There's a bunch of little things that I feel like are not taken into account that should be, and those are some things like where a point system where, I mean, come on, we got so many good fight stats now. Like, look at PFL when PFL's got matches going. They're tracking the fights and the stats as the fight's going. And we could go off of that shit alone,
And not all takedowns are even either. A nice, double leg that's nice and soft with a little bit of, where you just kind of sits them down counts as a takedown. And then there's, some real fucking nasty slams where people almost get killed. Like, well, oh man, what was it? Greg Maynard and Emerson.
Yeah.
Well, like,
yeah, when they knock each other out.
Nasty, that's not a normal slam. You're
right.
There's different elements. So do you score all takedowns the same, even though one takedown's almost, it could be a knockdown or a slam on the shoulder? It's not equal. So how do you score that? As a judge, I'm looking for damage in a round. Who does more damage to the other opponent? Who controls the other opponent? And that's how I score. Like, who won the round is what I would look for. Who inflicted more punishment on the other person, the opponent. And that's not the way it's fully done by everybody. I think, it'd be a great chance to introduce technology to show like the force of a slam, and be able to sort of quantify that information if you want, or the force of a kick. Some leg kicks, a leg kick is not equal to another leg kick. Some leg kicks dent the actual calf in half, and some of them tap and move on.
Yeah, look at you're gonna tell me Edson Barbosa leg kick is the same as I can't even think of someone who does like half-ass leg kicks, but
his calf in half, basically. His fucking leg dented, like it was a full dent. The guy's looking at my leg going, holy, what the fuck am I gonna do with it? So yeah, that's scoring is a whole fair discussion. This was not a robbery, and it was Taylor Catterall. If anybody wants to go watch what a real robbery looks like, that's what a robbery looks like. Not 2 super razor close rounds and 1 definitive round. And the MMA community
I think the MMA community just hates O'Malley and loves Peter, and I think that's the main issue with it. I think I could feel the hate seething from people when O'Malley won.
I love O'Malley. I think he's great for the sport. And they did an interesting article. I'll send it to you. It's 3 judges. All of them had Peter winning when they watched it live. All of them went back and rewatched it and scored it. Round 1 O'Malley, round 3 O'Malley, round 2 Peter, and said live we had it the opposite way, but now that we've rewatched it, it was scored properly. And I was like, I think a lot of people simply wanted Peter to win, and they saw what they wanted, and that's fair. I mean, people are biased. I get it. Tonight, I'm going to try to not to feel that way again. With Izzy, I'm going to try to be fair with it, but you can't. You can't blame people for liking who they like and not liking who they don't. But I think Sean O'Malley is here to stay for a while, and he needs a couple more fights before a championship fight. But Cheeto will be a real good fight for him. Good.
I think that's his best. I think that rematch is his best fight. I don't see the Aljamain fight being competitive.
No, not right now. Not right now. No.
Yeah, not right now. I don't see a few of these fights being competitive for him, but
Sterling just keeps getting better and better and better. Well, shit, I know you got to go. We've kept you forever, but thank you for joining. And are you going to be around for the fights tonight?
I'll be around for the fights tonight, yes.
All right, brother. Have a great day. Thank you so much for joining, and looking forward to catching up with you later.
Talk to you soon, Eric. See ya.
Bye.